Are you ready for the snowpocalypse?
Dude, I think so. How about you guys?
I'm getting out of here.
Did you? Are you really? Are you like driving somewhere after this tonight?
Not tonight. I'm going to drive tomorrow, but I'm going to Mobile, Alabama. I'm going to work next week down there.
Okay.
And
Don't want to miss that. For you.
Hot take: weather modification, yay or nay?
Gosh.
I mean, bro, it obviously it's not a secret. They're 100% saying they're cloud seeding and changing the weather. So yeah. I mean, who knows what large scale effect, just creating some clouds somewhere, what kind of stuff it can potentially have, or if some of these clouds that are rolling in here were meant to cloud seed a normally super dry area in the Midwest just to get, or way west to get some rain. If it's, what I mean? It's like, who knows? But it's weird. Anyway, I mean, we'll see. I got one of those. Firewood, and I have a fireplace at my house that I'm in now. So, well, it's actually two fire. It's like the same fireplace, but in the basement and on the main floor. Are
they real wood burning fireplaces?
Yeah, real wood burning fireplaces. So I'm like, man, if I lose power, at least I know it's kind of rare. My house is from like 1969, so it's a little older. But so I'm like, all right, well, I went and got like 8 big old chunks of like 8 bags of wood, and I'm like, all right. Unfortunately, a lot of my food, if we lose power, I might be setting a cast iron on top of this fire, but because I don't have gas, which sucks when the power goes out and not be able to cook something on the gas stove. But yeah, we'll see.
But you've probably got a really good house. Like the houses that I'd be looking at would be built in 50s, 60s. Like I think older homes, I think are built a little bit better. And I don't want to get into why, but I mean even just the timber. Like,
nicer wood. Growth, yeah, totally. Yeah, 100%.
Hardy pine.
Yeah, for
that
sure.
Kind of stuff. It's hard.
This thing's an old ranch house, but it's just built into a hill, so it's got like a walkout basement. But yeah, it's been nice. I lived in 12 South in a tall and skinny for like the first 14, 15 years I was here. So it's been nice, just a little changes pace, and I'm out in Hendersonville now, so it's been kind of nice to just not be in the thick of the stuff. I know you guys are in the thick of the stuff here too.
We are in the thick of the stuff,
which is cool. It's really nice to be like 5 minutes from everything. That I really do miss that. But it's just nice. It's quiet. I'm on a dead end road. I'm like right by the lake. I almost feel like I'm in a lake town. I almost feel like I retired.
Yeah. William's headed out there. He just bought a house.
Yeah,
really? Congrats, bro.
Mount Juliet, just north of Mount Juliet. So I'm kind of probably in line with you, right near the lake. So
yeah, dude.
It is
quiet
besides the airplanes.
I know. The airplanes fly right over my house too. Yeah,
but it's not that bad. It really is.
No, I don't super duper hear them. Yeah. Like every now and then I do, but
if it gets like Hartsville, Jackson, then we might have an issue. But
I mean, if you live what I understand is if you live next to train tracks, you don't hear the train. You do, but it's not. It becomes
12 South,
noise.
I used to wake up in the middle of the night hearing the trains that were in that Berry Hill train yard. Just when they were squeezing their brakes, I'd hear it. I mean, I'm sure I probably somewhat got used to it, but if they were really loud, I'd hear them. On a restless night, I'd be hearing those in the middle of the night. I was like, God, that's annoying.
Yeah,
I can hear the one outside from Capitol View. The train squeaking. It is terrible.
It is crazy how loud that stuff is.
Awful.
Yeah.
Like if you're walking or running under there, you're losing hearing.
And even right here, here's a relevant one. We live next to a church, and the church bells go off every hour.
Oh, wow. I love that though.
Yeah, but I don't notice the church bells anymore. Yeah, I mean, it's occasional that I am like, okay, it's the top of the hour.
I think it's probably just back at my old place, on a night where I'm just laying there trying to sleep, on those nights where I just couldn't sleep, and then I just hear that off in the distance, and I'm like, shut up. I just wanted an excuse to. I'm sure when I was hard asleep, that never woke me up, but when I was just laying there, I could be like, wow, that's more clear than I feel like it should be for how far it was.
Right.
So So how long have you been in Hendersonville now?
Man, I got my place in July of last year. I got the keys.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's been cool. First house I bought this place, so it's my first house I've ever had that I own. Yeah, so it's been cool. I was in a tall and skinny for 14 years, and then I rented a condo downtown for a year between that house and figuring out where I wanted to go. Yeah, so yeah, the condo downtown was pretty cool. I mean, I was the stone's throw from you guys. I was at 7th and Church in the Benny Dillon building for a year, which was pretty cool. One of my buddies owned a condo there, and he let me rent it from him, so it was cool.
I bet the quiet, though, has that helped at all from a creative perspective?
You know, I don't know. It has been nice having co-writers come over there and have it be so quiet, no distractions. I mean, even at my place in 12 South, I had a lot of people come right over there. I had a little writer room at that house, and yeah, it was pretty loud. And dude, the amount of times where somebody just be screaming outside or like crazy stuff happened over there. Over the course of being there for 14 years, there was just a lot of craziness in that area. That was definitely somewhat of a distraction. So it has been really nice to just kind of unplug, and when I leave town, just unplug, not have to think about a lot. It's been, I really enjoy it.
The reason why I asked is because, I mean, to me, quiet and meditation is a big pot, like stirring pot for me for creative ideas.
Yeah.
If I can just quiet myself, usually something will come. And I feel even more validated about that recently because I was listening to, of course, a Joe Rogan podcast, and this was probably a couple months ago. But it was with him and Lionel Richie.
The GOAT, yeah.
And he asked, like, Lionel Richie, like, what's your best advice for just a musician or artist? And he said, meditate. Like, okay. Wow.
I've definitely heard a lot of people talking about that whole just like, somebody was on, it might have been Rogan or somebody, another podcast, and they were like, man, the fact that we're never allowed to be bored now because we always have our phones to play with us is one of the things that keeps us from thinking, what do I do to like further my, how do I come up with my own creative ideas or ideas that help me further myself? Because the second you're bored and you just pick up your phone and start playing on it, you're not sitting there forced to go, all right, I'm bored. How do I make myself unbored by, creating something myself instead of just consuming? So I definitely think, meditating is like the most pure example of sitting there with your own thoughts. And, I think it's really discomforting to a lot of people now to just have to be alone with your own thoughts. And,
isn't that
it's really
odd?
great.
It's odd, too, because I love to meditate so much, but the more I found myself on a screen, I'm feeling what you just said. But I'm against that. And I'm like, well, I'm doing exactly what I don't want to do. It is a fight. It's a battle.
It really is. It's addicting. Obviously phones. I'm guilty of it as well. And it's funny, like being content creators and stuff. It's like I look for ideas from other content creators. I like playing guitar, and I like consuming content of, there's interesting, like you can learn some things every now and then, or I'll see somebody play a riff and they'll like kind of break it down or whatever, you know what I mean? I'm like, man, I should learn that. I'll save it. I often do pull some of those up and try to play some riffs that somebody was playing on there. So it is cool to see stuff like that, but at the same time, it is a huge distraction from creating your own, especially on like music or like on a deeper level. Obviously content's like one thing, but like really creating, you're not usually getting super inspired to like write the deepest love song you know what I mean? You're not like,
it's crazy how much it's changed because like Instagram used to be, remember when it was pre-algorithm, it was like the newest post, like you would refresh and the newest post would come up.
Yeah, that was so nice.
And then I remember that changed and it became kind of different. Well, now, dude, I don't see any of my friends' stuff. Like, it's rare that I see a friend's
I feel like
post.
of course, as I'm trying to really get into artist mode, as I guess we'll maybe talk about, I've been just watching a lot of the YouTube guys that talk about how to do better with your content, because I'm just like, I don't know, I'm not like the most young plugged in, but they're like, it changes constantly what works on these algorithms. And they're like, just within the last couple months, it's gone from whoever has the biggest amount of followers having their content being shown to whatever the most clickbaity or viral style content. And they were like, even if you don't follow that person, they're going to do the suggested stuff. And then the people you do follow, whatever is performing well, and they go it's a plus because you can have a low amount of followers, and if you have good performing content, it can get shown to a lot of people, which is it's interesting. It's kind of better than just everyone having to see Ariana Grande and Kim Kardashian's posts because they have the most followers.
You brought up a really good point, which I was going to tag on to that, was the snowstorm. I am seeing artists talk about the snowstorm, and that's the most views that they've ever had. And they're like latching on to a hot topic. Mm-hmm. It's just it's stuff like that. I'm like,
yeah. He's been thinking about this for a couple of days. Because yesterday he walked over and was like, "Man, this is just bothering the hell out of me."
Well, dude, I was talking to two artists the other night, just at a round, and we were talking about like I had a little guitar playing video that got like the most views I've ever had on an Instagram video, and it's like 150,000 views. Where I basically, which one was it? I just like had the little spinny bottle, and I just was like, should I practice or, write a new song? And I just kicked it, and it was like Blues Noodle, the same old riffs I've been playing, and got like 800 shares from and it's just guitar players going, haha, that's funny, and sending it to their buddies. But like, dumb thing, and the other guys I was with were like, I was talking about the weather, and I was talking about like being on an airplane, and it was my most successful video. But then you post about your own art, and it gets like 100 views, and you're like, damn it.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I loved you posted one about neural DSP.
Yeah, which is funny because I don't even have like a computer rig anyway. So,
yeah,
and I'm sure it sounds awesome, and I would love to do that. I just like, a couple years ago, I was like trying to make the decision on like, do I get into trying to do tracks? Do I get into trying to recording? And I went, man, my strong suit since I've come to Nashville has been writing and performing. And I just feel like it would somewhat, the whole jack of all trades thing, I'm like, it would take away from the creation of the music. And obviously you could be creating it, but I was like, if I started spending more time on tracks instead of just writing a song every day, if I was like only writing 2 or 3 times a week and then creating tracks the rest of the time, obviously it would be a different skill set, which could be important. But I just went, man, I have so many talented people in my life that can do that I like collaborating with. And I was like, I know I'm really bad at this. So I'm like, my learning curve would be so steep for me to get good at Pro Tools. I mean, I took classes on Pro Tools at Belmont, and I somewhat know my way around, but I just know I'm bad at it. And I was like, dude, there's just, I sold all my rig. Like, I had a rig at one point, and I was like, I'm going to do this. And the more I started messing with it, I was like, dude, this is like a waste of my time. I really need to just focus in on what I'm good at. And, I've got really good homies in my life that are great at that. My producer who plays drums with me live, Nick Gibbons, has been a longtime homie, and I've always leaned on him for recording stuff. So it's like, dude, I'm never going to out record like anything Nick does on me. So I'm like, dude,
you do it.
Yeah. And I hate to say it, I'm sure AI has been a big topic of conversation, but I'm kind of glad that I never did, because instead of me just throwing together a really mediocre track to every co-write, everyone just throws their songs in freaking Suno and gets an immediate demo now. Yeah. So it's like, I'm kind of glad I didn't spend all that time, and I'm sure there's a lot of producers just kind of kicking them. And I know a lot of producers are using it to help fast track demos that aren't really like, it's not a record they're putting out for somebody. It's like they might run it through, maybe they'll add some licks themselves, or obviously put the artist vocal on it, but it can really save you a lot of time if it's purely a demo. And I don't know where it gets into for releasing and stuff, but yeah, so I just didn't want to spend the time on it.
I mean, that goes to say, I'm in the same boat. I'm a guitar player, songwriter, singer 100%. Type. Yeah. And I like the producing part of it, where it's like, where do we find those moments? Like when William and I are working together, we're pretty cognizant of like, what is it that we're actually shooting for? And there's that moment, maybe this, and I like the crafting of the producing process. But when it comes to being in the box, like, I can get around a little bit. Like, I can do, if I want to write a track style, like I can do that, but it's clunky.
Yeah, and I just think there's people that like have spent their whole lives getting good at that. And I really like, I mean, back in the day, like, guitar players didn't learn how to, like, engineer. You know, a lot. You know what I mean? Like, you really kind of just did your thing. You went to a session. Everyone had their role in their job, and you really just got good at your one thing. And I just kind of was like, man, I want to be good at writing songs and performing them. That's what I've loved doing. I didn't come to town to learn how to engineer. You know, I didn't really come to town to be a content creator either. I'm about to, you know, unfortunately, right. I'm about to be, I'm trying to be. Yeah. But, you know, so I fortunately got here early, spent the last 12 years basically freaking writing 4 or 5 times a week and just like really diving in on songwriting. And I've, you know, toured all over the country and done all that thing. And I'm like, that's what I love doing. So, yeah, I just don't want to spend time, and I guess I got lucky that AI came and made me feel like I didn't need to spend that time, just because, yeah, like if you're bad at doing that, Suno is going to kick your butt. You know what I mean? It's like, right, which I would have always been bad at doing that. So See, I hadn't even messed. I really hadn't. We had a lot of discussions about Suno, and you never messed with it.
I hadn't really messed with it.
It's worth diving into.
It's great, and I know, and I'll see producer buddies that do use it to like help them out, and just even the stuff that they do. Like I had a buddy that I was writing with the other day, and he's like, "Bro, like I'll slap a track in there on their like DAW, because they're like pushing their DAW now," and he goes, and I'll just say like, and maybe maybe the drums were Suno, and then he replayed everything else. Because I'll put it in there, like the artist will say, "Man, I really wish we had pedal steel," and I feel bad because a pedal steel player is not getting a call, but if it's for demo purposes, I don't care. Mm-hmm. So then, you know, he slaps it in there and says, "Give me a pedal steel part," and it puts a pedal steel part on the song. And you're like, yeah, this is nuts.
The DAW mode is crazy. Like you have to pay a little extra, and I'm kind of fiddling with it now, and I'll show you about it. I'm just trying to learn it as I go, seeing what's actually worth using from a songwriting perspective, because I think it is useful. It can be useful, but it's also an extra thing you got to learn and do.
Totally.
So yeah,
and I'm definitely not going to mess with the AI DAW as I don't even know how to, you know, as I barely know how to work my way around Pro Tools. But I do.
That might be your way.
Well,
in,
you know, and I hate to say it, but I do like finishing my co-writes, just going, all right, let's just slap it in a Suno. We'll have a work tape, and we'll have a somewhat usable AI demo, and if a year from now that artist is like, "Hey dude, that song was pretty cool," I'm like, well, there you go. Or, you know what I mean? It's just like, you know, I mean, when I first signed my pub deal in 2014, I only did 2 or 3 demo sessions of 5 songs, and this was like riotous track guys were kind of really becoming a thing, so there weren't a ton of them. So I did a lot of just 2 or 3 guys with acoustics in the room. And if your publisher didn't decide that was one of your 5 best songs that quarter, and so I was writing 5 songs a week. So, you know, in a quarter I was probably writing, who knows, 50 songs. Only 5 of those were getting demoed, and only 5, which meant only 5 of those were being pitched. Mm-hmm. So the amount, and I know that the pitch game has completely shifted now, and maybe back in the day less songs were being pitched, but only the best songs were being demoed because publishers didn't want to pay for it. But now you can truly plug a song in. Because I had songs back in the day that I thought were really good. My publisher's just like, we don't see it. You know what I mean? And they was like, all right, well, I guess I'm not demoing this song, which is a huge bummer. But now you can slap every song in and go, okay, yeah, this is cool.
Right. Okay, 2 things. You said something interesting. You said less songs are being pitched, more songs are being demoed. Or you said maybe it was the opposite. I think that's what you said.
Well, I think more songs are being able to be demoed now, which is maybe making the pitching process a little more cloudy, difficult. But just because there's so many great sounding songs, and even if the songs suck, they sound great because AI, which I do think that if you slap a cruddy song in a Suno, it's still going to be cruddy. Yeah. But I mean, at a certain level, at a certain level, you know, and these guys did great work, but there was a studio, I don't know if it's still around, but it's called Baird, and always had amazing players, but it like, you could be an out-of-town guy and you can just send them one song and they'd kind of just track it, and then they had an in-house demo singer who'd put an unbelievable vocal on it. But they didn't always have the best people sending songs in, but they were, I mean, I hate to say in the term polishing turds, but they were polishing turds and giving these songwriters a really amazing demo of a less than stellar song. Now, were those songs really commercially viable? No. Was that product amazing? And if you took an amazing song in there, and many hit songwriters did take their songs in there and get a great product. But if you think Craig Wiseman bringing his, or Rivers, that's what you guys said, right? Rivers bringing his latest song into Baird, or some guy who just lived in Iowa who wrote a mediocre song by himself, they're not both equally pitchable, even if the same players played on them and the same demo singer sang them. So I do think that we still have a little bit of that today. I do think also back then, unfortunately, just the way the game, the best song won a lot more back then. Today, it's a lot more, are you friends with, cousins with, high school homies with this artist? You have a lot better chance of getting on their records because, I don't know, it's not necessarily about, at least on a radio format, it's not really about the best song these days. I mean, everybody kind of knows it. The genre's in this weird spot. Obviously, there are certain artists who mostly just cut really great songs. I think Morgan Wallen is the ultimate version of that thing. And there's a lot of people, and country's always kind of been this where you have an artist leading the charge, and they're usually making the best version of that thing, and then you have a lot of people copying them. And I do think Morgan Wallen is still cutting great songs, and whether you like the poppiness of that style of music, I do think and the fact that he cuts 36 songs every time he puts out an album, there's bound to be great songs out of 36, and the best songwriters are sending their best work to him because you want to be on that record. But then there's a lot of people copying that, and some of those songs you just go, oh, well, this kind of feels like Morgan Wallen, so it feels like a hit, you know what I mean? So I do think there's a good bit of that going around, and there's always been that. FGL had that, and then you have other people kind of copying the sound, and sometimes people do a really good job at copying the sound but fitting in with what's hot at the moment. But I do think that just with, the content and people discovering music in different ways than radio, that there's so many different niches within, country radio is still basically like Morgan Wallen, Luke Combs, Lainey Wilson, and a couple people that kind of sound like those. But with the Marcus Kings and the whoever's, dude, he's incredible. But and all those people. I mean, Marcus King, I don't think has ever had a song on the radio. But you look at big country festival lineups, and it'll be like Eric Church, and Marcus King's right before him, and Marcus King, and then there might be people with radio hits under Marcus King. So it's like he's not, and I'm sure he's headlining some festivals, but like major big country festivals, he'll be direct support for somebody huge, never been on radio. And then someone who's had maybe 3 number ones at radio might be below Marcus King. So it's not a direct, and I know Marcus is, and there's these outliers, obviously Stapleton is somewhat similar. He's headlining and only had like 3 hits on radio, but has entire records that everyone knows. So it's not a direct correlation having hits. So, but I do think you have to be a little bit outside of the box to have that outside success. I don't know if you're going to be a Morgan Wallen copycat and be in that direct support slot that Marcus King is at.
Well, I
don't know.
Yeah, you bring up there's been a separation, and I think it's good, separation of what radio pushes versus what actually sells at live shows, because obviously there's a ton of people listening to Marcus King.
Totally.
But a lot of people want to go see Marcus King. You know?
Yeah.
John Mayer's another great example of that. Stapleton's another great example of that. Like,
well, I think we talked about this. I know this is a re-record of our first podcast because, dude, it might have been like 2 years ago whenever we did that, because I was like, dude, whenever I was like trying to think of the stuff I was talking about, I'm like, dude, I think that was like 2 record cycles ago for me at this point.
Thanks for your patience.
You know what I mean? Oh, it's all good, bro. No, I just enjoyed hanging with you guys. But, I do think that we might have been having this conversation back then, but I think that it's even more so now, and even more so with AI music becoming a thing, is that people really want their stuff, a lot of people that are music fans, to sound authentic. And I think that that's one of the things that might be kind of beginning to feel like the nail in the coffin of things that are easily covered by AI. And it might just be it's the most popular, so AI is getting fed the most of that. But like, and I'm not a huge fan, but I know obviously he's huge. But Bryan, you can't make Zach Bryan records with AI. You know what I mean? Like you hear the mistakes, you hear the talking, the guitars are barely in tune sometimes. But they have a vibe, they feel authentic. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't think that guitars are ever in tune, but I think that's kind of the shtick.
I think it's part of the thing is that it's just ever so slightly out, but it feels real. Wow, and that's the main thing I have to give him credit for.
100%.
And I don't know if he's doing it on purpose or not. And I would say at this point, they probably are, because it would have been really easy for his first record to become huge and then some big producer to say, yeah, dude, let's bring you in and do that thing, but overproduce it. So kudos to him for staying authentic and using his live guys in the room that are sloppier players than. I mean, that's one of the downsides to, some of the big Nashville session players is they're the best players in the world, but like they're so good, it almost feels robotic. You know what I mean? So it's like, dude, and the fans are just like, dude, if anything, at least the true music fans who want to go see stuff live that aren't just like, I want to go see whoever the hottest person is now, the Marcus King fan versus the whoever. They don't want it to feel like it could potentially be AI. You know what I mean? So I think it's going to create this divide where you just have people who are like, whatever's playing at the grocery store or overhead, I don't care, and whatever's hot, I'll go see at my one concert per year. And then you have the true music fan who's like, no, I want authentic. And I think that's going to be even more of a divide going forward is what feels authentic.
Yes, I'm with you. I think humanity is going to catch up and understand and hear. I mean, even just, you probably resonate with this, like you hear Suno, you kind of know when it's Suno. It's just,
you really can. And you can almost fool people, and I think it's what some of my buddies do, where they're like, well, the more human elements you can add to a Suno demo, the more it feels human. I'm like, what if it was all humans? You know?
Dude, check this idea out.
Which I get if you're just like pumping demos and you need them to sound fast. But I do think even in Nashville, like we were talking about, there's just so many songs that sound good and so many people doing the thing that there's just I'm sure, I can't imagine being an A&R rep right now where 98% of what you're getting are Suno demos, and you have to really listen through like pretty good sounding demos to go, okay, is this actually a good song or is this just an amazing fake voice singing something? I don't know.
Not to mention on top of that, can this artist, like if you're actually an A&R, then can this artist support live show? Like, can they perform?
Oh, well, totally. Especially if you're being pitched an artist. Totally, yeah.
Yeah.
What I've noticed in creating too is perfection has been, we've talked about this a lot, perfection's been a big challenge for me that I'm overcoming. I think with this AI stuff, it's actually made me enjoy the imperfections in my music. Yeah. Like I am accepting it so much more because to me, imperfection is going to be the new standard.
Yeah. What's funny when you listen to your favorite like classic rock records from the 70s, some of the imperfections were the coolest parts of the records, and we just kind of took that as that was a thing of the time. And then by the 90s and 2000s, things were just so polished. We got really used to things being, especially with the invention of autotune, things being so incredibly polished that it became the standard. And I remember, listening to people talk about records being made in town, and I don't think Stapleton uses autotune. He's so damn good, he doesn't need it. Mm-hmm. And I remember one of my friends, and I hope I'm not speaking out of line, but like one of my friends, Jake Gear, who's running Lost Highway Records, was my plugger at Seagale back in the day, which Lost Highway is that imprint that they restarted at Universal. Anyway, his wife is Haley Witters, and I remember him going, he goes, we're making the decision to not use autotune on her voice so it sounds more authentic. And he goes, and she's a great singer, but things are not going to be perfect. But she's such a great singer that you will hear the imperfections more in her record. And it gave it a distinct sound, and I thought it was really cool. But it was like, that was like an against the grain thing that like they had to like tell whoever was engineering the record, they're like, we need to sing it as perfect as possible, but without using autotune so that it still sounds human. And I was like, wow. And if you go listen to her stuff, I don't think there's autotune on it, and it sounds really cool. But you have to be a good singer. Really you have to be a good singer to be able to sing without autotune and leave it at that way and not have it sound too funky.
Yeah. Right. So okay, so CJ, obviously we've known each other for some time.
Yeah.
Even just like up to last night, we played same rock fest together over at 3rd and Lindsley. But nobody on the episode, people who are listening may or may not know who you are. So to give a little bit of backdrop, 30 minutes into this episode, can you just tell us like where you're from, music? Just give us like the quick 411 because I really want to get into what what you got coming down the pike and all that kind of stuff.
Totally. CJ Solar from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I moved to Nashville. I started playing guitar when I was 7. Started writing songs when I was like 12. Moved to Nashville to go to Belmont University with getting a songwriting degree, cool. Which I always think's funny. I guess it's funny that I'm actually using it, but
yeah, you literally
got a degree in songwriting. My last semester, I interned at Seagale Music, which was a publishing company co-owned by Brad Paisley. They ended up offering me a publishing deal a couple weeks into that internship, so I signed in February of 2014. My first publishing deal, graduated that May, wrote there. My first year was like an 18-month year, so I was there for 7.5 years. I had probably about a dozen major label cuts while I was there, including
the biggest being
including my first number one, which was Up Down by Morgan Wallen. Mm-hmm. My buddy Jameson Rogers had a number one that with a song called Some Girls that I wrote there. I had a single that went to about 30 on Jerrod Niemann called Blue Bandana, and then I had
Love
album
that song,
cuts.
by the
Thanks,
way.
brother. I might redo that one myself one
Yeah,
day.
man.
So we'll see. But I do love that song. Thank you, brother. And then I had album cuts with Jason Aldean, Justin Moore. I had a couple Texas number ones with a few different artists, but my buddy Mike Ryan being one of the main ones. And, Travis Denning, Ian Munsick, a bunch of guys that I was buddies with that I got to write with, that I got cuts on their albums. And, really fortunate to get to do all that stuff. While I was there, I released 3 EPs. And
the goal was it at the time, like, were you always seeking the artist? I know everyone tries to put you in a box, and I hate that in this town, but like, was it writing that you really
we were trying to transition me to doing the artist thing more while I was there. It was always one of those things where I was from the get-go started having success as a writer, but they were like, man, the A&R people like your voice, all this stuff. But right as that was happening, I saw the transition from, like, when I first signed my deal, I went and got the guy who signed me took me to lunch with most of the A&R people in town. And all of them said, we love your voice. We're keeping an eye on you. When you feel like you got an awesome record versus songs full of songs, come to us and maybe we can talk about a deal. Because that's how things happened. That was the end of it. Yeah. And then by the time that happened a year or two later, they said, well, we're kind of just signing people that go viral. Like, there was like a clear shift from like 2014 when I had those lunches to 2015, 2016. They started going, we kind of need you to like have like a viral moment on like YouTube or Facebook. Like, we just signed Kane Brown, who has 1 million followers on Facebook. Luke Combs is blowing up on Facebook. So Facebook was kind of the thing. You almost needed to have some video, and you didn't even have to get a lot of followers. It wasn't even a lot of followers. It was just show something happening on there. And I was like, I had gotten with William Morris and was like kind of beating up the road a little bit, not doing a ton online because I was like, this online, like, if I can just show, like, I can tour, I'm writing great songs, I'm cutting great records, the A&R people are going to give me a shot. Well, that just became less and less of a thing. And then the original team that signed me at Seagale kind of left or got replaced, and the people that replaced them kind of weren't really pushing my artist thing. So I kind of lost all of my champions being an artist at that company, which is part of the reason I left there. Not to say that those people weren't cool, but they weren't the ones that signed me. And I had this deal in place to be releasing music, and it just wasn't a high priority, I felt like, for me to... And the vibe was changing. It was more like, dude, go viral. Like, if you want us to try and help you get a record deal, do something online. I was like, so I just kind of felt like I was, and I Up Down went number one in 2018. So I mean, this was just it was all during that time. And they're like, man, you're killing it as a writer. So I think everyone was just like, I started being put more, I think, in the writer box. And I will say, even as I was just thinking about, where I was spending my time, I was writing 5 days a week, and then, or, you know, if I was having to go play a show on a Thursday, I would leave town, you know, at the last possible minute so I could do as much writing that week as possible, go play, drive home Sunday, write all week the next week. So I would say that, you know, I was 80% writer and 20% artist. And I wasn't doing a ton to promote that music. I was, you know, releasing it, maybe making a couple videos I was posting on Facebook. Maybe some, if I could convince a video buddy to come do a little weekend recap of the shows we were doing. And I got to open for Skinner and, you know, Hank Jr. and a lot of my heroes and stuff, and got to do some really cool shows. But translating that into online followers is really hard, you know, because you know, even if you play in front of 5,000 people opening for Skinner, maybe 100 of them go follow you, maybe. Right. So it's like, dude, it's not, you know, and you got, even if you say it 4 times on the mic, like if you don't have like a freaking QR code, which I didn't, it's not like people were, you know, they'd have to like purposely take their phone out, type my name in and hit follow, which is just, it just wasn't easy. So, yeah, I don't know. You know, I built some lifelong fans through doing a lot of those shows, but it didn't just make the numbers go wild. And then these past couple of years, I feel like I've kind of been just trying to really figure out what I want to do, what I'm doing. I've continued releasing songs that I love, and, you know, out of the writing full time, and I've had a lot of like small indie cuts with just homies and other artists that I've written with, and I haven't, you know, had any huge major cuts these last few years, as I've maybe been a little bit more 50-50 artist writer these last couple years, because I've been just really trying to just figure out what I want to do and leaning a little bit more into myself. And I'm about to record my first full-length album, and I will say I did put out a 9-song record, but I cut all of those songs in like one day, and then one being a piano ballad, so they were kind of cut more like demos. So I'm doing my first full-length record in 2 weeks. I'm really excited. Assuming everything's booked, and assuming, you know, somebody doesn't get sick and can't make it, I don't want to do that. You know, I've got some crazy cool players lined up.
Who's playing on the record?
Well, I'll just say it, assuming that we're planning on live tracking everything. Ideally, we're trying to do, so we got 3 days.
Okay. Where are y'all going to be?
We're going to cut at Skaggs' place up in Hendersonville, which is right by my house. I'm really excited.
Sweet.
They just renovated the place. They vaulted the ceilings. And made it really cool. It feels really old school in there. It's been around a long time, but again, they just renovated it, got a ton of new gear and everything. And my producer Nick Gibbons was like, dude, I think this is really cool. He knows the house engineer, and we toured it, and he kind of messed around in there, and he's like, man, I think this would be great. They're giving us a killer deal. And I think we're the first people to track in there.
Yeah, it reopened.
It just reopened. So I think we might be the first people to. I don't know. Maybe somebody's coming and tracking there. But when we took the tour,
good juju there.
I don't know, dude. It's just cool. So just being a fan of musicians. Ricky Skaggs, legend. Actually, my guitar bag that I carry around says Monday Night Concerts with Ricky Skaggs on it. I've had this bag forever. Everyone always.
That's the one
you
had last night.
The one I had last night,
dude. This is a sick bag.
I should have brought it today, but it's.
I've never like been. Like speechless about a guitar case, but I was like, wow.
Dude, it's got like a grandma's couch, like cowboys around a campfire scene on the bag. And at least the story I was told was Ricky got his, like everyone that played with him, this bag in like the late 90s. And I bought a guitar off of one of those guys, and he gave me the bag with the guitar. And I did hop into a session one time with somebody else who had played with Ricky, and he saw the bag and he's like, where'd you get that bag? He was like, you shouldn't have that bag. And I was like, not have that. I was like, well, it's my like prized possession, dude. But
you say
so anyway,
you sold the
I sold the guitar.
Yeah,
I did. Well, it was a 1960 J200.
Yeah,
it was a really nice guitar. But it didn't have a pickup, and dude, I would literally just like go into my music room at night and just play like Into the Great Wide Open on it, you know. And it's like that's all I did, and being mostly a writer, I was like, well, I don't want to take this guitar on the road. I don't want to put a pickup in it, and you know, mess with the, you know, because I think they gotta cut it out a little bit more for the pin,
right?
To put a pickup in, I was like, dude, I don't even want to put a pickup in this thing. I don't want to mess with it at all. It sounded so good. And it was my most valuable guitar. And I went, man, But when I wrote on it, I was like, dude, it's so tall, my like arm falls asleep when I'm writing on it. So I ended up, I think I traded that for like a '63 Candy Apple Red Jazzmaster, which I also regret selling because I don't have. But I used to buy and sell guitars all the time. So anyway, so we're cutting at Skaggs' place. I'm really excited. Obviously I want to make sure everybody shows up, but the band that I have booked, I'm incredibly excited for, and I've had some of the best guys, in Nashville play on my records in the past, and I love all those records, but I'm going for a more authentic feel for this new project, going a little bit more old school classic rock, bluesy, whatever you want to say, with this vibe. So I've got. My drummer hooked this up, but he's got Steve Gorman, who played with the Black Crowes for like their entire career playing drums. So freaking stoked. Black Crowes are one of my favorites. Steve's a legend. Nick just had him play on another record, and he agreed to come play on mine. I've got my buddy Jerrod James Nichols, who has agreed to come play guitar, which if you've ever seen any of Jerrod's videos, he's one of the most electric one of the greatest guitar players alive. Dude's just electric. I've gotten to become good buddies with him over the last few years, and super grateful he's coming. This was a cold call, but he's agreed to come play. Well, obviously, I knock on wood, everything comes through. But JD Simo is going to come be the other electric, so I'm like freaking ecstatic.
Got the Avengers.
Yeah, dude, I know. And then session legend, but Steve Mackey, who plays bass, and Nick booked him, but I think he played on the road for a long time with Delbert McClinton and Peter Frampton, and I think he's he's played with a ton of people live and in studio on bass. I think I'm saying this next guy's name right, but Billy Justineau, who I believe played keys with Eric Church for most of Church's career on keys, and then my buddy Rick Huckabee, who is a songwriter, really great friend, and he had a record deal with Warner and he's done everything. Had multiple radio singles on people like Thomas Rhett and other stuff. He's playing acoustic and going to be doing most of the backgrounds, but he played on the road with Tracy Lawrence too, but for a long time. But I'm like, he's just I jokingly call him like a swag daddy because he's just the coolest dude of all time, and the feel of his right hand is just like Keith Richards-y, so on. He's just like, his pocket is incredible, and he might do some, if we need 3 electrics, he might play third electric. So I'm not playing on this record. I have played on most of them, but when all of those people were like, yeah, we'll play on the record, I was like, okay, I'm just going to sit out playing guitar. I know.
I'm popping popcorn.
Yeah, I'm going to be singing, so I'm going to be trying to sing. We're going to try to, obviously I'm probably going to have to do some overdubs for the vocals, but we were trying to amp in the room with the drums, live take this album.
Is this, I hadn't seen this room. Is it it's
a pretty
all
big room.
It's kind of like Ocean
They
Way,
do have a couple big booths that you could put a drum set in. So we're going to do, Nick's going to set up a drum set in the live room and one in a booth, depending on what we're wanting per song. We're cutting 12 songs. So we're hoping to get 12 in 3 days. I hope that's not, we're hoping we're not being too ambitious there, but I think it's going to be really cool. If we're trying to get live takes and we're just having a hard time, we might move the amps to ISO booths. But we're really hoping to cut at least Jerrod and JD in amp in room with Steve on drums. So we'll see. But I'm just really excited because these guys are just some of the most human feeling, unbelievable players, and guys I've never worked with. So I think it's going to just be a change of pace for me. I joked before we started talking that I released my first single, but my first EP I released in 2016. I started wearing my Ronnie Van Zant style hat that I normally wear that year. I'm a huge Leonard Skinner fan.
Yep.
Part of the reason I chose that hat. So I'm swapping hats. I'm potentially going to have a little bit of a rebrand. My name's going to be a part of it. I'm not 100% sold on what it's going to be CJ Solar, I think, and the Somethings, kind of the way that Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band did, and Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. So I'm going to do that. I've had the same drummer and guitar player who are like my best buddies. Nick, who's producing the record, plays live with me, and he's been playing with me. We met week 1 at Belmont, and then my guitar player Stevie's been with me since 2018. So I've had 2 really core guys that are just like best friends and homies that come on the road with me, and so we're going to kind of brand it a little bit. I think about, you know, a little bit more of like it's kind of a band thing. Obviously, they're not playing on the record, but you know, Nick's producing, and Steve actually has been doing a lot of my content along with my fiance Amanda. So I've got like a really great duo of people helping me with my content that are really close. So that's been cool. And yeah, so Stevie's gonna come make like a little mini documentary.
I love it. He'll be great
for
at
the
that too.
For this record, and yeah, dude. So it's gonna be fun. I've really never been this excited about a project. I mean, I've been obviously excited in the past,
pumped.
but dude, just having these players and being friends, just having so many friends. Obviously, there's a couple of cold call musicians coming in that I'm a fan of that are going to be playing. But then, yeah, like having Jerrod, I mean, that's like kind of a dream come true. I mean, he's become a friend, which is really cool. But having him play on the whole album with JD, Simo, and it's like, dude, it's going to be sick. So I'm really stoked. And the direction and just, what I was saying with the hat, I'm changing hats. I'm going to do a cowboy hat. It's going to be a little different, but the music's going to be cool. Less country, but maybe more country. I don't know.
So not the 2016 algorithm.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, I'm just like, dude, I've been doing. I feel like I've been in the same lane doing a similar thing. It's funny, in 2016, everybody told me I was too rock for the genre. Oh. Now I'm like not rock enough, but I'm like, dude, I'm just gonna like the music I grew up on was Creedence, Clearwater, you know, Leonard Skinner, Allman Brothers. So I'm just gonna kind of really tap into some of my like earliest influences for this stuff. You know,
pave the way, man.
When I got into high school, I that's when I really got into country music, and I do love country music, and these songs I do believe are still Nashville style songs, but melodically and production we're really leaning into some old school vibes here, I think, a little bit. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm, you know, knock on wood, 2 weeks from now, I mean, everything's booked. We're hopping in the studio in 2 weeks and cutting this record. So I'm really excited that it's all coming together. And yeah, I haven't never looked forward to a project this much, but yeah, so I think I'm trying to get the first single, you know, assuming all the timelines go correctly, from this record out in May. So
here's a question for you. I've got a couple of them. One, do you have support for this, or is this an independent deal?
I am completely independent.
Yeah.
Welcome. Yeah, I know. So, you know, I've been very fortunate to have had the songwriting success, which has kind of helped me step out on my own. I actually left my last publisher a year and a half ago. So even publishing, I've been independent. A lot of these songs I've written in the last year and a half. I got a couple older ones, but I think 8 out of the 12 are self-published because I don't have a publishing deal.
Is that how that works? If you leave the deal, do you get your publishing back?
No,
I didn't think so.
Well, no, I get the songs that I wrote after I left that company. I own. There are certain publishing deals where you're there until you recoup. That's kind of more of an LA thing, from my understanding. Right. That they give you like $500,000 and then they go, when you pay us back, we don't own your songs. You know, you can own your songs again. But in Nashville, it's just whatever you write during the term is pretty much the common practice. So, yeah. So when I left that last company, you know, and it's you know, I've had a lot of stuff in my personal life, from, you know, getting out of a relationship a few years ago, being single for a little while, meeting somebody new, and doing all this other stuff, and
the whole thing.
You know, a lot of just, you know, from moving out of the place in 12 South to like having that kind of hover spot. I moved all of my gear and stuff. My parents moved to Gallatin a few years ago, so I like moved most of my belongings into their basement, got this condo downtown. So yeah, I've just been just a lot of change in my life, and yeah, I mean, I'm blessed with the songwriting stuff to be able to kind of fund and step out on a limb and not have anybody telling me what I need to do. So I'm really just kind of like, what do I truly, really want to do? And, you know, what's the music that I really want to make? Not that the stuff I haven't been making the last couple of years I haven't loved, but I I do think this is going to be the most me project I've ever done, and yeah, it's going to be it's different, and I'm excited for some change.
Soak it up, man. Lead the way. I think that what you're doing is really cool, because a lot of people aren't doing that and don't have the opportunity to either. But I mean, William and I are working on independent projects ourselves, and got to go do the live tracking thing. We were adamant about that. Like, wanted to go and do live track. I want to collaborate with these people. Like, dude, I want to get those moments. And
I think it's special. And as we were talking about AI, it's even more special now than ever to get incredible musicians in a room and just create magic. And I think obviously it's a pretty big undertaking, and it's not cheap, but I think it's going to be worth the investment to really bring my art to, I think, its fullest form, and in a way that I'm proud of, and something that I think is going to feel real. And I'm going to, I'm probably not going to make another record for a minute, obviously, doing this, but I think I'm going to be more excited than ever to really just like spam these songs onto the internet and just promote this record. So I'm really hoping to kind of hop into an 80% artist, 20% writer role. I might even take some time off of writing just to like really
be an artist.
Really, well, it's just, I've been writing, almost pretty much full time for like 12 years.
Yeah.
So I think it's just, I've taken just little short spurts off. Like last January, I just took the whole month off of writing, which was a nice little reset last year. But yeah, I think it's going to be cool to just be in artist mode and try to figure out how to promote this music and really become a student of making content. But just try to really figure out how to get this music into the right people's hands, because I think they're, every artist has people that can like their music out there, but the hardest part is finding them. And maybe with this little algorithm change, hopefully I can get these songs in the right people's hands and tour a little bit more, setting up some shows now.
It sounds to me like you really like that piece.
I do. I've always really loved that piece, and it's just it's not an easy one to crack. I mean, playing shows now it's just hard, dude. I mean, the economy sucks. Promoters are having a hard time. Everyone's getting killed on the road just because everything costs so much. But I do think that some of the fans I've been talking to are like, man, these like major concerts are so expensive. And I'm like, well, dude, I used to feel bad charging $20 at a door, which I don't feel bad at all anymore. I'm like, hey, maybe it's $30 now, because I'm like, dude, you go see Morgan Wallen, it's $1,000, it's $500 to $1,000. You know what I mean? And obviously, crazy. It's an incredible show, and not to knock Morgan, but there's just there's not a lot of middle ground. There's people who want to go to these huge festivals or these huge stadium arena tours where dude, even just like your cheapest show at Bridgestone could be $100, $200, $300 to sit in the nosebleeds at Bridgestone. So it's like, dude, I think the true music fan who wants to go see music on a regular basis, it's just really hard for regular people to afford that. But if you can get your music in front of these people and they can see you in a club and you can charge a $20, $30 ticket and put a couple hundred people in there, that's sustainable for everybody, and that's what people used to do.
Put on a kick-ass show.
And put on a great show, bring a great band, have a little bit of production, and not over-the-top production, but even Chris Stapleton doesn't have over-the-top production. It's just great music, and that's kind of what I'm hoping to, to do. We'll have a little bit of lights and some stuff, but
you're tapping into something that I hadn't really thought about, and that is club market is kind of a sleeper right now.
Well, it's just hard for these buyers because, and I talk to buyers and club owners and they're like, dude, if you just don't have a following, it's really hard for them to like do a guarantee. So I'm going to start doing some more door deals just to get into some rooms that I otherwise couldn't get into. And then I'm going to run a lot of ads on socials and just really hope that I can get enough people there to, even if on some of these dates I'm breaking even, just build some of these markets, just for the sake of like growing the live thing as well as the social thing. That's going to kind of be my biggest focus, because I'm like, dude, I and not that I'm like not trying to write for other artists, but I feel like I kind of reached that mountaintop of going, okay, I've rung the bell 2 times. I've had a lot of major label cuts, and that's been really fun, and I'm not going to not be pursuing that. But I think it's become even harder than it was when I was able to have that success. And it's just a different mountaintop that I want to climb, you know. So,
can you answer two things first, just for the listeners? What's a door deal?
Okay.
And then also, who are you relying on, if anybody, from like the tour strategy, or is it just all yourself?
Kind of myself. I have a manager who's the one team player that I still have, who this guy named Dustin Rarig, and he's just like become a real super homie over the last really 2 years, I think, that we kind of got hooked up. And he's mostly been in the tribute world. He was in Nashville for a while, helping original artists, and then he ended up his story's crazy, but his over the last, I don't know, 10 years, well, he owned a bus company, which he got out of during COVID because nobody was touring. He built up this tribute act, Get the Let Out, which is like one of the biggest, it's like the biggest Zeppelin tribute act. So he's had a lot of success in the tribute world, and but he knows the road, and he knows venues, and he knows live music. And so we're kind of putting together a little plan. I actually just left my booking agent, so it's kind of just the two of us that are going to be trying to like cold reach. I mean, he's got connections, so he'll be doing some reaching out. I'll be doing, we'll be reaching out to some clubs and I touring over the last 10 plus years. I have some connection. I have club connections, so it's not like I don't have some tour history, and I'm not just like, all right, 50 dates like in a row. Like, we're not doing anything crazy. It's just key markets that I've hit over the years. I'm just going to go back to, and then, maybe find a market that I've been to but don't have as much of a tour history, and, strategic routing, and go, all right, let's start small. Hometown routed. Sacramento's a market I've hit, places that I've toured with buddies. Okay, well, let's do a solo date at a small club. Maybe it's 100, 200 person cap room. And a door deal, to explain the door deal, there's no guaranteed money. It's, whoever shows up and buys a ticket, I get a piece of that ticket.
So it's a percentage of
it's a percentage of a
ticket.
ticket. So it's not, somewhat common, like an 80-20 split is somewhat common. But it's really negotiable. Less negotiable, the less popular you are.
Right.
And there can be a split where they go, okay, well, there's a door deal, but we'll guarantee $1,000, and then everything after that is split to this percent. So there's different ways to do it, but just if you don't have a big tour history, if you're popular, you can go, let's say you're a mainstream country artist, and this club wants to bring you in. You can just say, I want $30,000, or whatever it is, and they can go, all right, well, we got to figure out how to make that math work on our end for the tickets. But on this, you come to agreement. It's like, all right, well, let's charge a $25 ticket. We'll do an 80-20 split. However many tickets we sell, I get 80% of that. Okay, let's take a shot here. So they're taking a little bit of a shot now. The more popular you get, I guess you can go, well, give me some of the bar, or just pay me a flat fee that I know that I'm going to make money on. But when you're taking a chance going into new markets, that's more. It's just a little bit more common. And some booking agents just really don't like doing the door deal thing, because it's a kind of I don't know. It's a little bit of a. But I stand more to lose than. The club obviously is going to lose if they're open and 0 people show up. But if 50 to 100 people show up and drink their faces off, and we all have a great time, like, they're going to make some money. Ideally, I'm going to make some money, and I'm trying to build something. So it's going to be a little bit of an investment on myself. Obviously, I don't want to just like lose thousands of dollars every night, but if I can get close to breaking even on some of these. There's towns where I know I'll make money, but on the places where it's like, okay, well, we're kind of stepping into a new market, or a place I've hit before, but not a ton, and we're taking a shot. So that's, but I do think running ads is a great way to kind of like, get people to see, on socials, like, oh, there's a guy coming that I might like, so.
Is that how you find your fans find your stuff?
Through socials?
Yeah.
I think so.
Like people that show up at the door, are they CJ Solar fans? Like in the markets that you've worked, you've got like your regulars, I'm assuming.
I have some regulars that like saw me open for big people, so that's definitely one of the ways that like I've found some people that really believe in me. So, you know, super grateful for getting to open for people. It's harder to make that work because those opening, but people want those. But actually, what's funny is not that many people want them now because this is a funny side story, but goes to it. You know, pre-COVID, I got to open a handful of shows for Skinnerd, a good handful, and then I've gotten to do a couple post-COVID, but I was doing a club date in Florida, and the local sound guy was like, "Hey, I just saw you guys got to go play with Skinnerd. Like, what are these opening shows?" And it's not the band's choice; it's usually the promoter, the buyer he's like, "What'd you guys get paid?" I'm like, "Dude, you know, $500 for a lot of these opening act slots." And he goes, "Bro, I opened for Skinnerd in like the '80s and got $500." You know, so it's just like those open. It might be up to $750 or $1,000 sometimes now, but you know, it's like. It's really hard even for $1,000 to take a full band on the road and not lose a lot of money. I mean, even if you're taking just, you know, homies that like are down to play for $100, which I'm not doing. Like I've got like guys with families and, you know, I'm in my early 30s, but like my band guys are my age or older and like they've got bills, they've got families. Like they're not just going to like hop in a van for $100, you know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like I got to pay these guys competitive rates and they're, you know, lifelong friends at this point, so it's like I want to take care of my guys.
That's always been a challenge for me.
It's really hard, you know, and you can find, you know, some young Belmont cats that have really low rent and are really just grinding and really talented and just you can do that, you know, and that's how we started. You know, I wasn't like this back in the so when I was doing those shows, I'd have a 3-piece and I'd have a drums and bass and I'd play electric and maybe a little bit into some tracks, mostly just like organ, tambo, I'd be doing all the guitar. And that's how I did it for a number of years just because I couldn't afford to bring out another guitar player. And once I started getting a little bit more going on, took on another guitar player. But yeah, so it's almost a little bit of a step back. But, you know, I haven't been playing a ton over that full band, a ton since COVID just because it's been this weird, like, okay, well, I need to pay my guys good. I need to make a certain amount of money.
Yeah.
Finding that line is really hard because, you know, you want to put on a great show. You want to bring the best players you can. But, you know, at a certain point, it's like I can't just lose thousands of dollars to go play full band for somebody. But I'm going to be strategic here. So, you know, I mean, this is going to be like 10 cities. You know what I mean? I'm not starting like with 30 to 50 dates. We're going to be doing like 10 strategic markets and building from there.
I think that's really what Logan Mize has kind of landed in.
Logan has been great at that.
Because he's working that kind of Midwest Kansas market, and he's got his thing.
Which is his home area, but, dude, he spreads out all around there and even further. But, yeah, he's kind of the king of that area, and it's where he's from, and it's smart to build, you know, who's going to like you the most? People who are the most like you, where you're from, you know what I mean? Yeah. So it's really smart. I've been trying to do that a little bit in Louisiana. It's not easy. Partially because, you know, it's a thing I've always struggled with Louisiana, but there's just such a strong culture of like Cajun and Zydeco type music that a lot of the fairs and things are and it's great that they're really supportive of that. Right. They're not really supportive of people who leave and then play mainstream country music. And some people are, but like there's a lot of fairs that are like, we only bring in Cajun music. And you're like, you know, so that being said, I do have a lot of supporters back there, but it is something I've struggled with trying to like build a following and be a guy that plays all the fairs back home. It's been hard, but
yeah, I mean, and when I look back, like, wasn't it Rick Beato that was talking about how bands have disappeared and it's all single artists? It was Rick, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, so
and that's one of the and I. Dude, and as I talk to older cats that are Rick Beato's age, and they're like, bro, we used to, like, throw our gear in a station wagon, and, like, we'd go play a show, and we'd make $30, and each of us would get $3, and then the gas would buy us to the, you know, and we'd live off that $3 for a week. You know what I mean? Like
back when $3 was like
you could eat at you like when the dollar meal was truly a dollar. You know what I mean? You know, so it's like those things were real, and those guys and I'm not saying that times weren't hard back then, but like money's just different. And I mean, when rent on a 3-bedroom house is $3,000 in a city like Nashville, and even if you're have roommate, you know what I mean? It's like I think it comes purely down to a money thing, that putting 5 guys in a van and traveling is really freaking, even if you're all doing it for nothing, even if you're all like, I'm going to give up my lease, we're going to live in this van, maybe have a scummy hotel room every now and then. Even scummy hotel rooms are $100 a night now. You know what I mean? So it's like maybe less, but it's like really hard and expensive, even if you're all team players. And of course, it's harder with team players, you know, especially with socials now. You know, let's say the bass player gets a bigger following than the singer, and he, you know, starts thinking, maybe I should bail and do my own. You know, it's just so hard. And, you know, back in the day, guys were like, all right, we have one mission, get to the next town, rock faces.
Yeah.
That is not the big. It's now like, oh, well, can we make content? Can we do this?
I think you could still do that, but you've got to have buy-in from everyone in that band. And
it's
like,
hard, dude.
That's really tough to find.
It's really tough to find.
I got a question. So you said you're nailing down like 10 places. What are you looking at? Data? Like, are you trusting your manager?
Probably be, yeah.
What kind of analytics are you looking at?
Well, I'll probably be looking at some data. Obviously, hometown's going to be a big one. Mm-hmm. Some other places near there for routing dates that I've been just hitting over the years. And then I've just got a handful of places that either some friends have brought. Honestly, a lot of it's been friends that I've toured with, and we've just like played some areas together. And it's like, hey, dude, like, I appreciate you bringing me to this place. I'm gonna do a headlining show with a small club in this market, and gonna give it a shot. And maybe, or maybe I'm gonna co-headline. My buddy Rick Huckabee, who's playing on the album, there's a couple markets that he's just got a tour history in, and we're gonna be doing some co-headlining dates in, like, he's originally from my hometown, but then his dad was a basketball coach, moved their family to Huntington, West Virginia. His dad was the head basketball coach at Marshall. Well, so he's got a following in Baton Rouge, and he's got a following in Huntington. So we're going to go probably do a Huntington show. He's got a couple other markets, and then my buddy Mark McKay's brought me all over the country doing some shows. So we'll probably do some shows together. So some of these will be strategic co-headlining type shows. Some of these are going to be just me stepping out on a limb and playing a club that, you know, maybe I've played out with some friends. Maybe I've played by myself a couple times. So it's going to be, you know, each market's going to have to be like, or, you know, I think everyone's Spotify says that Chicago's their biggest city just because there's more people living there that happen to listen to country music than anywhere. So it's just kind of funny, everyone I talk to. So, but it is a big market, and I know I have some people there. Okay, well, probably hit Chicago. You know what I mean? Like, just try a couple different towns. You know, they've got some infrastructure of some clubs up there. So that is a hard thing. You got to find places that have clubs that fit the bill. It's like, all right, we need that like 100 to 300 room cap room, and ideally they have somewhat these rooms, they can't just be like a ghost pocket that like is a pop-up club. It needs to be a place that people know they find these kinds of artists there, and maybe they've got an email list, and maybe they're letting their fans know, hey, on their own socials, hey, CJ's coming to town. He's written songs for Morgan Wallen. He's got a brand new record coming out. Teasing some, you know, content. I'm going to be running ads, because I also think even for me, like whenever I go to a concert at the Ryman, sometimes I get an ad or I see the show posted about like 3 times before I go, man, I really should grab that ticket. You know what I mean? So I do think that there's a little bit of running some ads, seeing an ad from, or seeing a post from the club, seeing a post from you, getting it beat in the head. They're like, dang, I should go to that. That sounds really fun. Wow, that piece of content looks really good. That artist looks great, especially if it's somebody that's never seen me before. I like that song. Let's go give it a shot. I think it's going to be a little bit of a hurdle, but I don't know. You know, I just hope that between my tour history and all the stuff, I'm just going to, you know, it's something I haven't really done in a couple years outside of a couple of these clubs in a few markets that I just have, you know, randomly hit here and there. But I think I'm just going to try to be strategic and try to hit some of the stuff like late spring, early summer, and then maybe again before the end of the year hit some of those markets to where I'm hitting some of these markets like twice in a year. The ones that I'm really trying to focus on, that like solid 10 markets. And then I'm also trying to do something where I potentially take some hit writers to some little venues and do like a writer show first, and then try to come back with the band later. So that's something else I'm going to be trying to book. I haven't really done that outside of, you know, I do songwriter shows and full band shows in my hometown, and I know that the people who come to see me like seeing both, because they're like, oh man, I love seeing you in the round, just because that's a uniquely Nashville experience. that just people just don't get all the time. So people always love that, and they love getting to see you play with your friends. I think when there's chemistry, it can be really cool. And then coming back with the band, so I just do both. But that's gonna be something else that we're gonna be trying out.
So you're kind of in this 20-80% songwriter artist. If you break down that 80%, we've kind of talked about, obviously you're going in the studio. That's going to be filling up a lot of your time. And then in your future, you have a lot of this touring strategy that you're juggling. And then you have the content, I assume.
Yeah.
I just followed you. I hadn't followed you, so I didn't look at your the content that you're doing yet, and that's bad on my part for the research. But so that's a big part of your day in the 80%, I assume.
I think so, man. I think that's just as I'm following, a lot of these
deep
people.
Breath.
Yeah, as I'm following a lot of I've never been a student of content, and I think that I watched the Arnold Schwarzenegger documentary. I know this sounds like a weird detour, but when I was watching his documentary on Netflix, one of the things he said that separated him from all of the other actors when he was on his come up was that he saw making the movie as 50% of the work and promoting the movie, which of course the promoting for him was just like going on late night talk shows and doing interviews and stuff. But a lot of the actors just thought apparently a lot of them thought they were too good for that at that time. At least that's what he said. So he goes, man, I did a lot of promoting of those movies so that people would go see them and the movie would be successful. And he goes, a lot of people just don't want to do that. And I know that that's different now, but I just it just kind of made, and that was a couple years ago that I saw that, but it was just like, oh man, that kind of like light bulbed me. And I'm like, God, I just got to promote my music better. So as I've been watching I've been watching YouTubers who talk about how to promote your own music, they're just like, man, unfortunately in today's day and age, you're a content creator who happens to make music. That's just the way the world works now, is if you are trying to market anything, you're a content creator. No matter what you're selling, you need to make content. Now, if you're promoting your own music, and then everyone's talking about, it's like, okay, what's your archetype? What's all of these things that you're looking into? Like, what sets you apart? You need to hone in on what makes you unique. How good, obviously a good product is a big part of that, but there's a ton of people I know with great records that don't want to do content, and it's hard. But it's like, find what makes you unique, find your niche, and just freaking plug away. I saw a kid the other day that was talking about that he had a label or an indie label, and they didn't like the song that was his favorite song on this record, and he goes, I just believed in it, and I knew I just needed to make content about this song. And he goes, I posted about this song like 134 times before I had one viral video. And he goes, that's just the level of dedication that you need to have making this content. And part of it's a volume thing for the algorithm, and part of it's a quality thing. I think it really needs, in an ideal world, it's both. But I also think some of that content is like, even if it's quality, it's like just what you're saying is quality, and you're having hooks in your videos. And so I'm really just trying to study some of that stuff so I can be better at bringing people into my world, showing them my art, and having them become, unfortunately, I think it's a big part of today. And I know a lot of artists, if you're big enough, you can still be mysterious, but like when you're a young artist, you just don't have the luxury of being mysterious anymore. You really have to kind of let people into your worldview. I would love to just like delete all of my social accounts, drop a record on Spotify and have it stream millions of times, and have a marketing agency put out a couple videos of me and run the ads. It's just not realistic for a small artist right now. At least that's the way it seems.
I mean, yeah.
Now, somebody wanted to give me a record deal and spend millions of dollars promoting me and give me the illusion of being mysterious while they're running hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars worth of ads in the background so that I can have the illusion of being mysterious. I think that is potentially how some of these things look grassroots, and oh wow, they're not doing a selfie style video every day asking me to listen to their record. It's just like, it looks like a Scorsese movie promoting them. Okay, well yeah, there's a lot of money behind that.
All right, hot take, because I think that people, like, the way that we look at artists has largely changed over the last, and this is going to be a little bit of a stretch, but you'd mentioned kind of the money is broken thing, right? It's changed. Yeah. And that is true. I mean, even just over the last 50 years, since 1971, you've got housing then was, the house was twice the income, average income. Yeah. Now it's 9 times. Like we're completely different. We've become a 2-income world. Okay.
Yeah.
Largely in families. And I think that does actually trickle down. I mean, death of bands is kind of related to that because your standard of living has dropped, even though it hadn't felt like it necessarily. I think I would go on to the extent to say that people now more than ever want the normie as a star. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Like the whole mystery Tim McGraw figure, like that's cool and like that still exists, of course. Like it's this, like you show up to the show and it's like there's the star kind of a thing, untouchable. But I think people really are gonna, like, especially now with AI and this lack of connection, I think that people are gonna be really gravitating to the artists that are like, yeah, here's my life behind the scenes. Like here's
I think you have to earn that by opening up and allowing people into your life, and then once you're so popular that you just like can't sustain like posting your location and not having 100 people show up to mob you, that's when you can stop allowing people into your life, is when it's like a security hazard. So you really do need to like let people know what you're doing, working on, because you're right. I think they want to be plugged in, and we might have talked about this last time, but you know, I do think that's one of the niche things is like, you know, like Luke Combs, you know, they joke that like a lot of the people that go to Luke Combs shows look like Luke Combs, like the lookalikes. You know, you go to a Jelly Roll show, it's like people that are like kind of like
Jelly Roll,
you know what I mean? But people want to root for people who are like them. Yeah. And I say that, you know, Jelly Roll, people love his story, and the tunes are obviously cool too. But I think that people want to root for people who are like them, and they want to find people that they can relate to. And you know, for me, I'm going to be trying to relate to people that like old school, real music, and that's going to be what I'm looking for. But everyone's got to find something that makes people like them, you know, makes somebody want to give a F about it. I had a songwriter tell me that a long time ago. He's like, man, we could write that song, but would anybody give a F about it? And I was like, oh yeah, dude. But that being said, I think you're right. Less people want stars. And maybe that's more of a pop thing or a movie thing, but yeah, I do think people want people that they can just relate to.
I mean, I do. I think that the part of that is 10 years ago, 15, 20 years ago, like excellent content was expensive and hard to come by.
True.
Now it's automatic. So like, it's kind of like anybody in their bedroom now can make phenomenal content.
True.
So it doesn't matter anymore to have phenomenal content. Now having like good, excellent, like I think the storytelling is more important than the mechanics of it. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Totally. And I think that you hit the nail on the head with the storytelling, whether it's with an iPhone video or with a cinema camera that you have that a buddy has, or you have. I do think that, you know, the branding and the storytelling and giving people a cause to like rally behind, you know. So one of these guys that makes a video is like how you make a cult, you know, it's like you need to have a cult around you, because people need to believe in something, and they need to believe in you and your art and like a cause almost, which I'm like, okay, I just want to write songs and release single, but okay, let's like rally people around something.
You've got a great attitude about it though, CJ.
And what you're showing is literally, which is great for the listeners, is like the struggle of an artist right now, because we haven't really had a like full-time artist on the podcast yet. And so this is so great to like for you to open up on what you're doing and what's to come and the challenges, and like you do have a great attitude on this, and we're excited to like.
Man, my dad told me this a long time ago, and I've heard this from other people, but you know, he was just like, life is a game. Games have rules. You have to decide whether you want to play the game or not, and then you got to learn the rules. You know what I mean? And it's like being an artist. Unfortunately, I've been saying this for a long time, and I feel like every time I figure out the rules and decide to play the game changes. Of course. The game right now, you know, it's like, okay, well, I got to play the game, and the game is create content and find an audience. And, you know, you can either complain about playing the game or you can play the game. And, you know, a lot of some of my favorite artists, you know, it's like it took them a while to break. And you know, part of the difference, but I mean, Black Keys guy had Dan had an interview where he's like, bro, like a lot of the difference between me and the guys that I grew up playing music with is just that by the time I was in my late 30s and broke with the Black Keys, I was still playing music and they had quit and got a day job. So I think it's kind of a war of attrition for that finding that access of, you know, the crossing lines of like, I'm still doing it and I'm really good and I've like put in my time, but like, and some people break, you know, at younger ages, but it's like, it is really like who sticks around the long, like you have to get through that hardship of all of the stuff to be a creator, because there's a lot of people who want to make art for a living and not everyone is going to be able to do it full time, especially as the economy's gotten even harder. The starving artist thing is like, they're really starving because it's not easy, and you got to maybe have another gig or, you know, a day job of some time. And that's a reality.
Which isn't failure.
Which is not failure. Because if you're still able to create your art, you're doing it. But, you know, getting to a point where you can just do that is almost a luxury. And unfortunately, those slots, there's only so many. And you're going to have to kind of like fight for it. And maybe that's playing guitar on the road with another artist. Maybe it's still music. Maybe it's playing downtown. Whatever that is for you. Maybe it's bartending. Whatever that is for you that allows you to create your art, you're going to have to find a way to do it. You know, for me, it was writing songs for other people. I was, you know, that's even hard in itself. And I was really lucky and really blessed that had a couple things that have allowed me to do that and allowed me to fund my own artist endeavors. You know, and I've had some help along the way, you know, some friends and some family and some people that were like, hey, let me chip in on this record here and there, which I'm forever grateful for. And, but yeah, I mean, it's a kind of a one-man team over here.
I mean, I completely just lost my train of thought.
You're good.
Dude, I straight up just lost my full train of thought, but I had a question.
That's all right. Well, we're on time anyways.
We need to wrap this thing up. We're getting kind of close to 1 o'clock.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah,
you're actually
CJ.
going to see this thing come to fruition.
Well, I'm excited. Well, maybe I'll come back in and update you guys.
This would be really fun. Definitely keep us updated on the record. And are you releasing singles? Are you going to do?
So what I want to do is when I do upload the record, the whole thing is up, so you see that there is a record. I do think that has a cool optic to it. So even as I'm releasing singles, I would like to release 2 from the get-go, just so the record's live. There's 2 songs. It's a new vibe. People kind of see, oh, this is something different and a bigger undertaking than just throwing a single out there and having somebody go, oh, this one song from CJ sounds different. You know, I want people to see that it's a clear departure and that it's a full project. I think it just has some weight behind it. So I want 2, and I'm going to have a couple singles drop before ideally the whole album is like October, I think. But I do want it to be from the get-go, oh, this is a record, and it's slowly coming out over the course of 5-6 months.
Right. I love it.
Yeah,
well, keep us updated on that because we'd love to promote it as it goes to our small but growing audience.
Dude, it's looking great. I love what you guys are doing. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely.